Well, 93 rounds, but I'd rather have that first.
Yeah, what's your chill? But this is not fun at all.
Okay, I'm looking at the worst one in the folder, so. Everything's so bad.
Yeah, vacation, holiday, holiday.
Hey buddy, how's it going?
So, are you?
Good. Love my couch.
Sorry.
Awesome. Megan,
Because I'm out of breath.
You have the effect on them.
Yeah, it's you. Nice to meet you.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna go ahead and get started. Roll call.
Got it.
Approval of the agenda. I don't think there's anything else that we need to add for today other than that's already on there. There's actually already quite a bit. So is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Been moved and supported. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Now this is a time for public comments. Does anybody want to speak about anything you want that's not on the agenda or that's on the agenda? Hearing none, moving on to the consent agenda. First of all, actually, I'd like to welcome Megan and Mindy. They are two new board members to our DDA officially this month. And so welcome. Elizabeth just texted she's not feeling well. She woke up ill this morning, so she won't be here, but I wanted to make sure I welcome those. So moving on to the consent agenda. I don't know, because we have two new board members, if we want to kind of look at them individually and approve them so that they understand what's in the consent agenda. Attached, you have the minutes from last month's board meeting. We have the balance sheet through the end of April. We have the general ledger. It is up to date, and then we have a sheet that reflects the payoff of the lighting loan or the forgiveness of the lighting loan, as well as our sign rental income. And then additionally, as part of our treasurer's report, we also have an expenditure list, basically, we need to pay the bills. So do we want to do those all together, or would Mindy or Megan like to ask, have those separated out to ask questions?
I kind of went through it kind of too, so if you want to do it all together, I'm fine with
I think that's fine. Okay. All right. So is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
That motion.
Jeff has made a motion. Is there support? And supported. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to the executive committee. It's kind of, it was on there before, but you should have had in your email yesterday, the board members, the results of the the evaluation for Jim's evaluation. So I sent it in a PDF format, so hopefully you were able to see it was even color. So it kind of gave just a breakdown. There were, let's see here, there were 10 board members at that time that actually received the survey link, which was through SurveyMonkey, and 8 responded. So I thought that was a good. And I thought overall, when I looked at the results, it was a very favorable evaluation. There were some comments at the end. I think out of 8 that responded, 6 provided, things that could be improved on and things that were being done well. So I guess I'd like the opportunity. Normally, the executive committee will meet with Jim and kind of make recommendations based upon those that evaluation. But I wanted to put it out there for the board members. If there's any comments you have or any questions, or if you want to just provide feedback via email to me so that the executive committee can meet with him and make those recommendations.
I thought it was good series of questions, just kind of folding in.
One thing I wanted to point out to everybody, when you looked at all those questions, okay, there were 30, well, if you don't count the open-ended questions, there were 34 questions. And that's because I narrowed it down. If you look at Exhibit A, which we're supposed to hold him to based upon his contract, that's Exhibit A to his contract, there's a huge list of responsibilities. And so actually when I went through them and I'm like, gee, I don't know whether or not he's been doing these or not. So I just think it would be helpful to, if you're going to give me feedback on what you would like to see for the next year, it may be just more information on some of those things on Exhibit A that we don't really look at all the time. It's not normally on our agenda. So if you could provide feedback before, we meet with him, probably that won't happen until towards the end of June. So you've got time. But if you would like to give me feedback, that would be helpful. But if there are any comments right now, please let me know. All right, hearing none, we're going to move on. And I do have a copy for the file, Kim. So committee reports. I don't know who's the chair of the outreach committee.
Tim, he is good.
I'll have that going on. Okay, so does anybody else here that can report on that committee?
I can just give a quick update. The committee did meet briefly to look at and evaluate. We got 6 applications for the Optimize Main Street grant. This is a grant put together by the MEDC. It's a technology grant to support small businesses with a $2,500 grant. Each community is able to submit 2 applications. So of the 6 we got, the outreach committee met, we evaluated and scored those using a matrix that was provided to us by the MEDC. And then we also looked at participation, engagement, have they received funding from a grant previously, those kind of items to put together. And so ultimately we made 2 recommendations and submitted 2 grants to the MEDC, or 2 applications to the MEDC. One for Vinyl Bar and Grill that would add computer equipment for vinyl itself, and then also for Plastic Planet, which would provide a point of sale system and some data for that. So those 2 applications have been submitted, but it is a first come, first served program through the MEDC. So we will find out in June if we got ours in time. I'm hopeful that we did. We submitted our applications the day the window opened that morning, so I'm hopeful we're in the time frame, but we'll find out beginning of June if we're able to get those 2 grants.
Okay, moving on to any questions for Jim on that committee? Okay, moving on to Business Development Committee. Who's the chair of that committee?
Actually, so I apologize. The report I just gave was Business Development Committee.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry about
I
that.
wondered, but I wasn't going to correct Jim because he usually knows.
Yeah, no, that's my fault on that one. So Tim is the chair of the Business Development Committee. So that's the update for the Business Development Committee. The Outreach Committee, not me. This past month.
Okay, so we're going to move on to placemaking, which I believe is Tom.
It's Tom, yeah, and they're not that yet.
Okay, about Events Committee.
The event committee did meet briefly just to kind of see where events are, have some kind of good conversation about the events taking place. Car Cruise has started. First one was canceled because there was rain and even snow. And then the last few have been very well received, good turnouts for all of those. Ladies' Night Out took place this past Friday, and despite the rain, we still had probably around 200 participants. Haven't had a chance to go through like our data collection cards yet to get an idea as far as like what was spent. But some of the early conversations with business owners are positive, that they've experienced good traffic coming through. So despite the rain, it seems like that was a successful event. And we did have some conversation on some of the upcoming events. In particular, I know one of the items we talked about is the road closures, and talking about utilizing more of the sidewalk space and the space available to us for those events, with the exception of Treat Walk, the Halloween Treat Walk, when you get 3,000 kids down here. It would be a good idea to do that for that particular event. That's it.
And I will reach out to Megan and Mindy and Elizabeth, and talk to you guys about serving on a committee. I think it's okay, important to be part of this board. So.
And is the chair of those boards going to send out the emails about when they meet? Is that, okay. So I haven't received any yet, so I just want to make sure.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, moving on to Center for the Arts.
You have until June 2nd to see the Lapeer Art Association 50th Anniversary Show. That ends on the 2nd. The next show up is the Community Art Show, which is this year the theme is the birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees. And that's going to open on June 7th. The reception for that will be on June 16th. At that reception, we will unveil the next community painting, which the canvases are currently available for anyone that would like to participate in this year's painting. If you don't know what the community painting is, if you're in the Pocket Park, Jim took photos of some of the previous community paintings, and those are what's up in the Pocket Park. There are, I believe, 8 of them now. This will be number 9. And anyone can participate. There are only 20 canvases available. Gallery classes in May, we had 2 private paint parties. One was for a birthday and the other was for the ladies of City Hall. And Kim did very good. Didn't she? Did. We've had an acrylic paint class, watercolor class, and oil painting class, wood carving drop-in and basket making, along with 1 duct tape workshop, which was for youth 8 to 16. The gallery was the starting point for Ladies' Night Out with the rain and all. And we have upcoming gallery classes. We have a nautical acrylic paint class on June 3rd from 1 to 3. There are 4 different paintings. You get to choose which one you want to paint, which is a little different from what we've done before. We are offering 2 sessions of the Bob Ross inspired oil painting class. Those are on June 16th and June 24th. And Linda Jackman is teaching another acrylic imagination and cork class. I'm not sure what that painting is yet. And we have a glass fusion class, which those have been very popular and sell quite quickly. We are currently working on getting a barn quilt class, and if you don't know what a barn quilt is, because I didn't, it is a 3 foot by 3 foot panel that is painted like a quilt square, and they hang on the outside of barns. So instead of painting there are barns around here that have quilts painted on the side of them, which usually have some family meeting. An instructor approached us about having this class. We're just doing the cost estimate because it takes a majority of a day, so we'd be serving lunch as well. And we have to buy exterior enamel paints to do this, so there's some costs involved. But we're working on that class. So hopefully we'll have that up in June or July. And we have potential of 2 new pottery instructors, so also look for those later in June or July. The youth theater program is starting their summer theater rehearsals. They're meeting right now via Zoom. The cast will start rehearsing in person on June 15th after school gets out. May was a busy month in the Picks. We had the Goblin King's Shadow play with Labyrinth. If you didn't see it, it was really cool. That was on May 5th and 6th. The audience size on Friday was lower than hoped, but we had a fantastic house on Saturday. And this was a program that brought in a lot of new patrons to appear in the picks. The following weekend was Sky Manitou's production of Columbo, and the feedback I heard was very positive. And that was from a combination of people who knew about Columbo and people that didn't know it had been a television show. We had a little over 100 patrons each night, which is pretty good for May. Last weekend was the rescheduled Keynote Sister concert. We did manage to get them an audience. It was a small audience, under 100, which is it. It was a very enjoyable concert. It was a good night of theater. They were very happy, however, because it was a new audience for them. There were a lot of people there that they didn't know, so they were quite pleased with that. And this is a group that I think you want to keep your eye on, because I think they're going places. On June 3rd, we will kick off our summer season with the classic Raiders of the Lost Ark, which I highly recommend seeing on the big screen. See the big boulder come at you. We will have our very first youth improvisation show on June 17th at 7:30. And we'll be showing the classic movie Singing in the Rain on June 21st at 2:30. We have 2 dance recitals coming up in June and 2 school field trips. We have Schickler and Toro coming through. They're also going to be doing, these field trips are for all of downtown. They're going to be not only at the Center for the Arts, but at the Historic Courthouse, Library, and the Lapeer Historical Museum. So far in May, there have been approximately 1,125 people visiting the Center for the Arts. Our Facebook stats for the PICS page, the reach is 136,680, which is a 20.3 increase from last year at the same time. And the gallery page has 66,365, which is a 56.9 increase from this time last year. For the rest of, for all of May, my focus has been working on the operational support grant for the Michigan Arts and Culture Council. This is a difficult grant anyhow, but they totally redid all of the structure, questions, and formatting. So it's been a real treat, which is why one of my eyeballs is spinning to the left and the other is spinning to the right. I have fancy Facebook graphs if anybody wants to see a fancy Facebook graph. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Jill. All right, moving on to Main Street program update. Jim.
All right, so just a few updates. You'll see in your packet that we will be starting the national accreditation process again. So the good news is that we did receive accreditation for 2023, so we are a nationally accredited program. Those of you that were here last year will recall it took us kind of throughout the summer to go through the accreditation process. For those of you that are new, and just to kind of recap for everybody else, the national accreditation is the kind of the 6 standards that the national program looks like. That looks at, and that includes the broad-based community support, inclusive leadership, diversified funding, strategy-driven programming, preservation-based economic development, and demonstrated impact and results. And so to look at that, they do a self-evaluation, which is something that we work on ourselves. So as opposed to trying to go through all 6 sessions at one time, which can be quite lengthy, we break it up. So we'll take that on throughout the summer. Each meeting will have a couple of them that we look at, so that we can submit our self-evaluation to Michigan Main Street, and then they follow up with a call with Michigan and also with National to kind of go through that, look at what we're doing well, and look at where we can improve. So we'll have that to work on throughout the summer. A few more updates. Following up, actually, Jill mentioned the community painting, the 4 murals in Pocket Park. 4 more of those community paintings are being turned into large reproduction murals. Those are being done by Village Printing, those installed downtown as part of our vibrancy grant that we have. And also the border for the social district, the painted border, Met with DPW to kind of finalize that, and we'll be getting that in place. We're hoping for mid-June, obviously weather permitting. The exception to that, we'll be doing 3 of the edges of the social district border. We are holding off on one of those edges. Had the opportunity to meet with our new city manager, Mr. Womack. He expressed interest in expanding the social district down at least to the Pocket Park, possibly further, if it's justified. So I'm working on updating the maps at his request and starting to explore that option. But obviously holding off on painting that final border in case we decide to expand it. And then also wanted to touch base real quick. Xcadia had their grand opening earlier this month. Very well attended. A couple of you were able to join us. If you haven't been there yet, I encourage you to. It's a lot of fun. Hernandez Mexican Food opened this past Saturday. They do not want a lot of pomp and circumstance. They didn't do the ribbon cutting. They said they might consider one down the road. But right now they're open, they're operating, so I still encourage you to stop down there and get some delicious Mexican food. I'll be meeting with Hin Thai, our new Thai restaurant, this afternoon. We've been working with them to do a loan through the Lapeer Development Corporation. This is not a Main Street loan. This is a part of the revolving loan fund through LBC. But we've been working together on that just to make sure they have all the information they need. This will go towards their kitchen build out for the restaurant. And then one more update. Hometown Hero banners are getting hung this Thursday and Friday. We're going to get started at 10 o'clock. So if anybody would like to volunteer, climb some ladders, we're going to meet 10 o'clock down in front of the gallery to get started on hanging those banners. If you got an 8-foot ladder or a 6-foot ladder, bring it with you. We have limited ones, but many hands make light work. And we've got 120 banners that you can go up in the downtown area. So it'll be really cool. And then that's all the reports I have, but to have a little bit of fun, I brought some questions. They're easy. They should be easy.
Can I add something to what you said a little
Yes.
bit ago?
Yes,
So
yes.
regarding the opening of Hernandez, even though they didn't want all the pomp and circumstance, I think we should, as a DDA, be welcoming them. So I told Jim, we need to like put together a basket or something, maybe purchase like a $10 item from some of the businesses downtown, and then have 1 or 2 of us actually go down to Hernandez and welcome them. Because that's exciting that they're opening, and we should be promoting that. So I'm willing to do that. I don't know if this is, I told Jeff like a couple of weeks ago that while you were gone last month, we were so excited about this program, we went ahead and just implemented it without you being here. But this is your approach, this is what you wanted us to do. And so we all agreed. And so if you want to be the one to, I can help you get the basket or whatever, and I can go down there with you. But I think it would be really good to do something like that. Maybe get, like a photo op so that it's showing that we're welcoming our downtown businesses that are moving here.
Now, did we do something like that for the slider joint as well? Like that's considered in the DDA, right?
So that is a good question. So we probably should do some kind of welcome for the slider joint. We did not do, when they opened, we didn't do any promotion or marketing for that.
Okay.
Reason being is when they opened, they were not in compliance with the city.
Gotcha.
They are now. So any marketing they do now, we can share, we can promote. But I couldn't do anything until they were compliant.
But I agree, Bailey, we should do something for them as
Yeah.
well. Yes.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
So-
go ahead.
I was just saying, so maybe Jeff and I could connect after the meeting and talk about logistics on how we could do that. And if anybody else is willing to help out, that would be great. But we kind of want like maybe just 2 or 3 board members to be on this ambassador program to be able to, kind of like, not everybody should, not one person should have to do it all the time, but, maybe we can rotate when any business comes into downtown and we can kind of put on that role. So, anyway.
Is where Harbor Freight is going, the old Salvation Army, is that DDA district?
It's not.
It's not.
No, the DDA district is the north side of Old 21. So any other questions before?
On the accreditation, is that just more of an affirmation of what we're doing, or is it also kind of hand or a roadmap that, you know, that we're doing what the national and what the mission kind of speaks to? Is that how we should be looking at accreditation? Why is it important?
So the importance for us, especially the self-evaluation, is it really gives us an idea of what our strengths and weaknesses are, especially those weaknesses, so we know internally what we should be looking at and working on. Having the national accreditation, it's kind of an accolade, but also if we look at national grants through Main Street America, that national accreditation is important. It shows that we're in good standing with the program, both state level and national level.
Is that common that DDAs are accredited? Do you have any idea how many?
It varies from state to state. So in Michigan, all of the select level and master level communities are accredited because Michigan spends a lot of time working with their communities. But there are some states where they might only have one or two nationally accredited programs.
That's great.
Okay, so sorry to circumvent.
That's okay. No. Any other questions? All right, so I have a couple questions for all of you. Nothing super hard. First one is, have any of you visited a business within the DDA district in the past month that you have not been to before? Or a new business you haven't been to? Okay, a few of you. All right, cool. I got prizes. I've got
It's like NPR, we get
a Main Street tote bag, or I've got a Main Street notebook, or I've only got a couple of them, but really cool Main Street camping coffee mugs. So raise your hands again, because I've been seeing you all. All right. Ashley, you're the closest.
Mr. All, what if some awesome person is already giving me all three of those?
That's true. You are not eligible for these prizes. Sorry.
So I was remiss at the beginning of a meeting because I had already met Mr. Womack at the planning commission meeting and was introduced, but all of you probably may not have met him yet. So we have our new city manager, Mike Womack here, who usually our city manager participates in our meetings every month when he can. So we're happy that you're here this morning. And certainly speak up about anything you have questions or concerns about at any point. But thank you for being here.
There you go. Next month, I might have different prizes or a different question.
All right, so we're gonna move on to new, do you have anything else?
That's it.
Okay, we move on to new business. The election of treasurer is on the agenda again. While this is in a very important position that we really need to fill by a board member, it is not a hard position. This is something that is an easy position to fill. There's minimal work as a treasurer for our board. So I really hope that somebody can be willing to volunteer. Even if you're a new board member, it's not a difficult position. So Megan, are you volunteering?
This is like an auction, you bid, so.
No, it's just switch. What are the responsibilities of the treasurer?
Kim, I mean, basically,
Mainly a signatory position.
yeah, I mean, you get the report, you get the treasurer's report, so the things we talked about that I kind of identified at the beginning, you get those ahead of time, you review them. I mean, you should be aware of what's in there, but really it's a signatory position. You're signing.
It is also an executive board position as well.
Yeah, so
So you would meet with the executive board, work on the budget process or anything that requires a budget meeting.
I'm not good at that anymore. I'm all set after that one. If no one else takes it, I'm willing to, but will that get in the way of any of the other, secondary boards that meet? That's my only concern.
well, they won't meet at the same time.
Okay.
But it is the executive committee doesn't meet like every month. We have met a little bit more
We've had
because we've
stuff
had a lot of
going
things going on, but
Okay.
typically they meet as needed.
And we
So-
figure out what works for our schedule together when
Yeah,
we
we're not
schedule
gonna
a meeting.
I'm sorry, it's not gonna coincide with the other committees.
Okay, that would be my only concern.
So are you volunteering or not at this
Yes,
time?
yeah, I'll,
Okay, all right, great. So is there?
unless anyone else is wanting to do it.
All right, so I would actually indicate that she's made that nomination of herself. So is any,
I second.
is there
Okay.
support?
Yeah, I support.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Welcome as the treasurer.
Well, thank you.
Jumping right in.
Okay,
So, should we redo the signatory motion then, or wait till next one? You have to approve her as a signatory too.
well, we can do that. We don't need to have that on the agenda. We can do that right now. haven't we? Okay, so is there
And
a
add
motion
her
to
to the
approve her
list
as a
of approved signatories.
I move that we add Megan to the list of approved signatures.
Is there support?
Support.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Thank you, Kim. All right, moving on to the 2023-24 operating budget. Attached is the worksheet that we, as the executive committee, worked on to basically present today. The first page are the list of proposed revenue items that we project for the coming year. And we can go through those in detail if you want to, that the total of that is $345,200. And then, if you look on page 2, there is a list of the proposed expenditures, which that is $285,963. And then additionally, the contributions, that are the extra items at the bottom. The total expenses were $320,263. So we want to talk about this proposed budget and any questions or changes you want to make. And then I would also like to talk about the fund balance, because typically as a governmental entity, we should not be having a fund balance. It shows on here that we're projected to have a 33% fund balance for the coming upcoming year, and that obviously is really high. Typically, I would think it would be around 15 to 18%. So I think we need to talk about how we're going to utilize that fund balance, what else we can do, as a DDA, what we're trying to do from an economic development standpoint for the downtown, and maybe we can add some additional things to ensure we're utilizing those funds that were provided. So anyway, from a standpoint of the proposed budget, on the revenue side, are there any questions? Are there any changes in regards to that? It's pretty self-explanatory, but as to where the number comes from, I guess I wanted to know if anybody had any questions. If there are no questions on that, are there any questions on page 2 of the expenditures that we project for the upcoming year? And just so you,
To the park fund, what does that do? What's that, the contribution to the park fund?
Contributions to parks,
Yes.
supports maintenance on parks within the DDA districts.
are you talking about the Parks Department or the parking fund?
I guess to the park fund, so it's 7,500.
Yeah.
Oh, the Parks Department, okay.
Yeah, so that's, goes to snow removal on the sidewalks downtown, upkeep of, like I said, the park areas within the DDA districts, spraying for weeds along the sidewalks, just general upkeep.
Mowing, trash.
Does the DDA, do we contribute to the plantings of the flower boxes?
We do.
Yeah.
Yeah, we contribute 1,500 towards the flowers.
That's
This,
That's the very top line, the CBD beautification at the very top.
Okay.
That's for the flowers.
and then this year, we will also be contributing 5,000 for the restoration of cupolas and planters as well. That was under, I think it's our
Main Street.
I think we did put it under Main Street.
Yeah. I don't know.
It's not separated
I don't
out,
think
it
it's
was a
separated
part of the
out.
Main Street program expenses.
So it should have-
Actually, no, I'm sorry, it's not part of our
No.
2023-24 budget, because that was part of our annual giving campaign, so we honored the donations from the current budget. that we are under.
But it won't be expended by the
So
time it starts.
yeah, I'm gonna have to follow up with Parks, because, yeah, it likely won't be expended by.
So we need to still then include in our expenditures that will come out of next year's budget.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll have to, we may have come back with a budget amendment already next month. Are there any questions about the budget? All right, hearing none, or if there are no further questions, is there a motion to approve this budget?
Make that motion.
It's been moved by Jeff, is there support?
Support.
Supported by Buddy. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, next item is a wood chip site assistance grant. And there is a application in your packet behind the budget for your review.
So this is our $300 sign assistant grant that we have through here Main Street. So this is submitted by Wood Chips. You can see the proposed sign that they're looking at in your packet there. The nice thing with Wood Chips is I think it kind of helps tie both of their storefronts together, kind of gives it that unity. I think it's a real nice looking sign. They did meet with and work with Michigan Main Street and utilize their design assistants when they got started on their facade improvements. So they've had input from them on that sign as well. As you can see in there, the cost is close to just over $8,300. So this would be a grant from us up to $300 to support that sign. Obviously, it's depending upon installation and approval and obtaining all the proper sign permits through the city as well.
That's awesome.
Do you need a motion?
Any questions? So then we would need a motion to support.
What
I have just a
language?
question about the, is this like the general, is that what they're doing as far as their patio too?
Yes.
So, I mean, I know it's not about the side, but on that left there, like, kind of looks like it really, how could it just tilted? Is it just kind of a weird angle or?
I think it's part of the rendering, but that's meant to be, I think, sliding on the door so they can close it off
Okay.
when they're closed during after hours.
Mhm.
Just to kind of prevent people from lingering on the patio.
Gotcha. I say, I wonder what that was like from tilted's point of view. No, it's like the block and everything.
Might just be the angle of the
Yeah.
shot.
Mhm.
Looks nice though.
It does, it
I mean,
looks
You know, I
really
mean, the
nice.
sign's good, but I like the rendering of how the patio's gonna look.
I agree. It's
So-
just
Does this
there.
make the sidewalk impassable though? Because it does look like it comes to the curb.
It would be the same size as
It would
their
be,
existing.
Yeah.
So it's just the rendering looks a little wonky, skewed. What kind of language do you need for a motion, Ken? With all the contingencies, or do we just say?
Just approve the
Just
sign
approve.
reimbursement.
Okay, I move that we approve the sign reimbursement for Wood Chips.
I support.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Okay, moving on to old business, Center for the Arts Programming Services Agreement. Jim actually has a proposed memorandum that he's drafted. I've looked at it. It looks good to me. So we actually met with CFA's executive committee. I think it was on, was it last week or the week before?
I don't even
It was
remember.
on a Monday.
Yeah, so we met because obviously, as you know, just for those that are new, we have a programming services agreement with CFA and basically what our responsibilities are and what their responsibilities are. And so we as an executive committee, this is actually up. It was a 2-year contract. It was actually effective in June of '21. It expires actually on June 30th of this year. So in a month, it's going to expire. So we were working as an executive committee as to what we would like regarding changes. And we met, and then we actually had a coordinated meeting with the CFA Executive Committee last Monday. Prior to that, I had met with the then interim city manager. I talked to her by phone for about, 40 minutes. And we talked about, because there was some confusion at some point by this board even regarding what assets that the DDA owns, what real estate. So I talked to her at length, and there actually was at some point some confusion about the pocket park. And so, that's the city's property, that's not the DDA's. And that was because we had been paying for some maintenance there. So she confirmed that the only 3 parcels that we own as a DDA there are 2 parking lots, and I don't remember now, one was the Cedar Street, one's the one behind State Farm, there's a parking lot, and then there's one over by the complex, the Fort Complex, on the other side of Nipissing. And then we also own the CFA building. So knowing that going in, we had some discussions regarding this agreement as an executive committee of the DDA, because obviously, if we own the building, we need to understand what our responsibilities are, if there's maintenance to be done, we need to be notified of that information. So, and there were some other things, there were like measures of success we wanted to make sure were included in here. We talked about the term of the contract maybe being on an annual basis because we wanted to see those measures of success. So we had all those items on our list. We went to the meeting last Monday, the executive committee, or most of us. I know Tim couldn't be there because he's been ill, but we met at the CFA in the basement, and we started talking about kind of what I just said about the building being owned by the DDA, and they were surprised, and they were always led to believe that the city actually owned the building. So I said, I reassured them. I had talked to the interim city manager. She had confirmed by looking at the assessing documents that no, in fact, the DDA owns it. So they wanted to do their own research. They wanted to figure out why they were told this all along, and why were they led to believe that. So they wanted to do their own due diligence, and so we agreed. There was no sense in moving on. So it was a very short meeting. We talked for a little bit, but it was short. And we were going to agree to move it out, and nobody could meet again until sometime in June. I think it's the first full week of June we're meeting again. So the problem is this: we have this services agreement that I can tell you, if you look at the last page of the agreement, it will automatically renew for 2 years under the same terms of the contract if we don't provide 30 days notice, which would be by today, because we have to give them a notice if we are intending to not renew these terms of the agreement. So what we'd like to do, but of course we're going to want to renew this. It's just that not under these terms. So I think to protect both sides, I think we need to give a notice of intent, not to terminate the contract, but that we do not intend to renew the current terms of the contract as they are now. But we are working on getting that new agreement worked out, hopefully by June, but at least then we put them on notice that this automatic 2-year renewal does not happen. So at this point, we don't want to approve this contract because we don't have it ready yet, but we do need to approve that there is a notice sent. You have copies for everybody?
Yeah, they're already passed out.
Okay, so if you have it in front of you, it just indicates that it's notifying the CFA that we're not renewing it under the current terms, but we intend to update the terms and conditions and enter into a new contract that's scheduled, I said June 6th. Did I say June 5th? I don't know. I thought I said the wrong date. But so June 6th, we're actually meeting again. I think it's at 5 or 5:30. And so we just want approval by this board that we send this notice out so that we don't run into an automatic 2-year renewal. So is there any discussion? Is there a motion?
Well, that's right. I've been almost embarrassed. I've been saying all along, like just in the paper, city owned. I I didn't know the DDA owned, so what, does that mean like the,
The real
Yeah.
estate, yes.
but I mean, the, what we know, the gallery 194, or the PICs, or both, I mean, is that all what we own, or just the?
Right, yes. Yes. So, hopefully I know that CFA committee was going to, the executive committee was actually gonna get, they were gonna make their contacts and figure out on their end what they saw, but my plan actually was to bring a copy of the deed so to the meeting. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm sure that Kelly, who's our finance chair for the city, who was the interim city manager, was accurate when she told me that. She did her research, and I'm sure that was correct. But I think both committees, because it was a surprise, I think, to really both committees from what they believed prior to last month. So I think they wanted some time, and we respected that. So at this point, I think we just need some time to be able to work this agreement out and work the terms out. So again, because of the way the contract is written, we need to provide that 30-day notice. We're going to be automatically in the same contract for the next 2 years, and we don't want that. We want to change the terms. We want to add some terms. So we do need to provide this notice before the end of this month, so we can be within our 30 days. So, is there a motion, or is there further discussion?
I'll make a motion.
Is there support? All right, it's been moved and supported. Any further discussion?
Just that, so the CFA is indeed, I mean, they're good with this as far as.
No, it's not about, what do you mean they're not good with it?
Well, to not renew this, the current contract, the way it's.
Well, but so we're at the end of the contract
Right.
though. So we want to work out another contract. It's just, we don't want to be, I don't want to say stuck, but we don't want to be under the terms of this contract for another 2 years, which will automatically happen if we don't do something by the end of this month.
And does
So-
it does state in the existing contract that either party has the right to
Yeah,
give notice,
so they can
so
do
we're
that
not
either.
violating anything.
Right. It's just that because we're at the end of the contract, we have to provide that notification so it doesn't automatically renew. So that's the purpose.
So will everything stay the same? Basically, it'll just be on an annual basis? Are there any other changes that would be?
So there were three main things I think we were talking about doing in this contract. One of them was Nat making this 2 years. I think, let me back up. One of the things was determining what measures of success that we needed to include for them to basically show us how they're going, do they have set goals? We were providing this funding. We need to include in this contract something that shows that they have goals and that they're measuring those goals of how they do on a year-to-year basis. So I think from an annual standpoint, if those are going to be something that are added in, then we really should be doing a year-to-year contract. It shouldn't be a biannual contract every 2 years. And then the other thing was the fact that, and I think this is really where it stopped, it wasn't those things that really were not the issue for the CFA executive committee. It was the fact that we told them that we own the building, and that because of that, we want some provision in there that provides the DDA notification if there are any repairs that need to be made, because we're responsible. And that's when it kind of stopped, because they were not aware of that information. So those are the three main things: notification regarding repairs on the building, and just our responsibilities as the building owner, measures of success, and then changing the term of the contract, the length of time. So those are the three main areas. Am I missing something?
No, those are, I think, the three ones. The other reason, as far as the ownership of the building is important, is because there's some language in that contract that protects the Center for the Arts and with insurance issues, but it might not necessarily protect the DDA. And if we are indeed the owners of that building, then we need to make sure that we are protected also. So that is some language that we need to look at and update.
There were
Right.
some questions as well about double insured general liability, right? Didn't it state that both parties were insuring it?
Right.
And so we just wanted to be able to kind of sort it out.
Right, that's correct. I had those circled as well. But the other three things were the primary, I think, reasons we wanted to modify it.
And I think those kind of fall under the ownership of the building and where those, responsibilities lie.
Yeah, right. All right, so, any other discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed say nay. Motion carries. All right, so we're down to board member comments. Does anybody have any comments about anything? I have one, well, actually, I guess I have two. I just wanted to indicate that I did attend the Main Street, their annual event or workshop, which was in Milan this year. It was on May 9th. It was actually really well attended. I can't remember the gentleman's name that came and spoke, but it was very good. It was on basically real estate redevelopment. He did a really good job, really good presentation. There was also a presentation in the afternoon from someone from the MEDC regarding, what's the word they used? It's basically how to apply for, excuse me, pro forma. It's their pro forma tool basically in determining whether they're going to make any type of grants. And it was just like, by the time you were done, I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a really long process it takes. And it was a little drier, but I thought the guy in the morning, and I feel bad I'm not seeing his name.
Joe Borgstrom.
Okay. But it was well attended, it was very good. The other thing I wanted to say is that we actually had a virtual session it was for chairs of DDAs as well as vice chairs. We did it virtually, and I thought, well, we could probably get a few people. It was for all of Michigan, and it was so well attended. I bet you there were at least, I want to say there were like 20 to 25 chairs that were on that virtual session, which you would think would be really hard to deal with because everybody would be talking, but it was very respectful. Everybody had ample opportunity, and it was only an hour session. But we agreed that there were so many different topics that each DDA was seeing or each Main Street was seeing in their own community, that it would be helpful to bounce those topics off other DDAs, other Main Streets, to be able to see how to have that help your community. So we thought it would be a good idea for this to be a quarterly thing. So we are going to have quarterly virtual sessions with all the chairs / vice chairs of the Main Street communities within Michigan. And we are going to pose topics. We've already done that somewhat already for the first one, but we're going to provide emails to the current Main Street, Michigan Main Street, as to topics. Michigan Main Street's going to facilitate these virtual sessions. And I can already tell you that one of them is going to be the ambassador program, because I spoke about it and they were really excited about it. So Jeff, I'm pointing to you because this was your idea. And so that's going to be, I think, potentially on the agenda for the first quarterly session we have. But there was a lot of good discussion, and we think we're going to get a lot out of it from other communities by having this. So I was really encouraged by it, and it was well attended. So that's all I have.
Catherine,
Jeff, go ahead.
I guess it's not more comment, but the two questions that were on. Has there been any more discussion, maybe like, between getting EV charging stations downtown? Are we part of the discussion on that here in the city to make that happen?
Jason and I have talked a little bit about that, and he's given me some good information. I think that could be something that our development committee looks at, or placemaking committee looks at. I did talk to the city of Owasso. They recently installed some EV stations into their downtown area. And they're still figuring out how to not make a loss on those. Their biggest challenge is they have to completely update the infrastructure in order to install. That's not the case with every community. And it also depends on the type of chargers that you look at. But outside of the initial conversations we've had, there hasn't been any correlations.
And the other, one of the reasons I was so excited with your letter, Mike, is with your DD background, just wondering in the short time that you had an opportunity to talk, and how do you think we are doing as a DDA to what we do, and do you have any thoughts or comments going forward?
It's hard to, from the outside perspective, really understanding the inner workings of DD itself as an organization, but in downtown, there's little tweaks here and there that's done in conjunction with the city. I think signage is a significant thing that can be improved upon in downtown.
Direction or something?
Yes, a little bit of everything. So Mr. Alt and I talked about that at length. The projection signage that we talked about. When you're driving down the street, you're not necessarily seeing the flat wall signage up against the building. The projection signage is a little easier to see from a motor vehicle perspective. But also, all the parking lots that exist back behind the buildings, I don't know if those are owned by the businesses or the city or whatever. So it'd be nice to have some very obvious, signage that says municipal block parking, parking lines. And Mr. All, I haven't talked to you about this morning yet, because I was waiting for the meeting, but one of the things we did in Cedar was we did a specific sign for the downtown DDA district, street sign, that had a little kind of crest on the top that said City of Cedar Springs, So as we talked with Mr. Alt about possibly doing something like that, make it bigger, more obvious, downtown district, Main Street community, something to kind of help promote the downtown, make it a little bit prettier and nicer. So, it's a process.
Yeah.
As much as I have to change things overnight.
I've been thinking about that too, if you don't mind, just that if and when this big announcement ever happens of this big project south of the freeway, I can speculate, it's going to include a ton of restaurants. Downtown is just getting its footing, and I would hate to think energy gets sucked away out of this. So I think signage is going to be more important. And I think we talked about the MDOT. They don't allow, to me it'd be great on 24, right over Memphis, that big really white sign downtown. But they don't allow that. MDOT is that, because if you go down 24, you don't know the city, you don't know there's a downtown.
I don't know MDOT's specific rules on that, but I have been told in recent years MDOT has gotten a lot more flexible. And they're always open to having conversations. And I know as you drive down 24, you do see that in other areas.
Right, the Oxford actually has one, if you're going down 24, there's a sign when you go into Oxford. So I would think that would not be like an automatic prohibition, you can't have a sign going across, 24, but I like the idea that it reminds me of Milan. So the projected, what do you want to call it, that actually you can see, because it's away from the building and not actually flat against the building. When we were in Milan, I don't know if it was a project they kind of took on for all their businesses, but many of their businesses in downtown Milan had those, like they had the little, I don't know what to call them, like the banner type of things where it came out, and then they had their signs like this. So you could easily see as you're walking down the street. What's wrong with my voice right now? As you walk down the street, you could see the actual name of the business. You didn't have to get on top of it and go, oh, we were there it is. So it is actually really nice to have those. So I think it's a really good idea.
Yeah, and after Mr. Womack and I had the conversation about it, and we were in the island and saw the projection signs, I talked with their director, Jill, and I did mention this in my packet as well, but they have a sign assistance grant similar to ours, but theirs is specific for projection signage. Instead of $300, it's a $500 grant, so it's not a huge difference. But most of the projection signs, they said they all pretty much use the same company they've been produced. So they have some similarities to kind of help tie the characteristics together. They're between like $800 to $1,200. So a $500 grant could be something that we could look at, or at least a similar program could be something we could look at if we want to go the direction of projection signage. I know under the, working with Caitlin, when we were updating some of the language a year or two ago, we did indicate even then that like some projection signage could be beneficial. So kind of exciting to hear Mr. Womack point that out as well as kind of reinforce this through some of our conversations.
I think that might be good if we could afford to have that sort of signage. Because we talk about our identity or lack of, what is the DDA? That even if they're walking downtown on the sidewalk or dinner or, one of the events, you are entering the downtown development DDA district. And at least they'll get us, oh, okay, they'll connect the name to a physical location. I think that might bode us well as well, just as far as our marketing and presence.
Yeah, I agree, and like I said, because we have this a little bit higher of a fund balance this coming year, maybe that's something we could look at in regards to using those funds. Okay, any other comments from any other board member or anyone? All right, there is no correspondence, so it's a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
Yes.
Unless you want to stay.
Buddy always gets to be the one. Oh, that's it, I missed it, so.
Yeah. Bye, David.
I actually go to this.
I know.
Jeff, if you want, some vouchers for that basketball.
Yeah.
I've got, popcorn season.
Yeah.
Stuff like, fancy stuff.
You want to talk to me about
Great.
that? So